off-roading with an off-road vehicle on top of it. That's what I'm talking about. We're doing a build update, so I got the truck here, and we're going to be covering a lot of things today, including drive shaft, a couple side projects, roof rack, things like that. First order of business, we come under the truck. I had to put a new cross member in. So this is an OEM cross member here, and I have it bolted up, but as you can see, I had to cut out a piece of the chassis to put this cross member back in here, because originally we cut the cross member out because we had a one-piece drive shaft, which was a huge mistake. We listened to a lot of people on Instagram. They told us to go one piece, but don't do that with these pre-runner applications. Stick with the two-piece and just modify your drive shaft. But anyway, so the cross member was cut, so it was easy to pull out. So when I got a new one, because this is where the carrier bearings will be mounting to for the two-piece drive shaft, we found out that the OEM drive shaft can't go back into its OEM position because this was actually put in here during the manufacturing of the chassis. So there was no way of putting this back in here, so we cut this piece of metal out just so we can slide the cross member back in here. And then we're gonna have a piece, well, I had to cut a new piece pretty much because the original piece was absolutely destroyed. It was really stuck on there, but we're putting a new piece of metal on here. It's gonna be welded up to this, and theoretically the chassis should be good and boxed in. This is my friend Nick. He does portable welding. His company is Patriot Welding Fabrication Services here in Central Florida. So if you need any mobile welding jobs, he'll come to you, and it's fantastic. So he's gonna actually be putting that piece of metal back on there today, and we're gonna be filming it. All right, so the piece is tacked in. All right, it's kind of loud right now, but all right, so he just finished welding the bracket. Why don't you go ahead and tell us what you did?
So, number one rule, don't let the customer do the fit up. That always makes life a little bit harder, but you didn't do too bad.
My cutting was a little off.
It's fine though, we had some gaps, so we ran some 60-10 in there, high penetration, high deposition rod, filled that up real nicely, ran it a little cool, ground it down, so now we had a nice thick surface. Then we re-ran some 60-10 over it again. Just ran that real hot, so we got good penetration in there. It was a bitch of a weld, you know, everything falling in your face, welding over frame coating and all that. But for the most part, it's gonna hold. You could jack the whole truck up on that little plate that we just welded in. It's gonna hold.
Yeah, let's go take a look. That's today's word of the day: deep penetration. You heard that, folks? Look at that. So yeah, like he said, you're gonna be able to jack the truck up on here, but this is very important that we got this welded back together because it's where the cross member ties in, and you know, it is technically a weak point just having your chassis exposed like that when you're hitting whoops, and we don't want any cracks or anything. So it's now back in place and stronger than ever. What do you think? Stronger than what it was before?
If I did my job right,
yeah.
The frame should break before that weld.
Yeah, exactly. Strength test passed. You're within, actually on the right side of it, but that's a lot of stress right here on a 3-ton jack. All right, so Nick from Patriot Welding just finished welding that piece of the chassis back on, so now we're gonna wait for that 2-piece drive shaft to arrive in the mail sometime later this week, and then once that's here, we'll be able to actually drive the vehicle. We are focusing on the ABS wire as well. We tried putting a 100-watt ohm resistor on the lockers in the rear. We tried jumping the transfer case plugs as well in the front. So far, nothing is working for this application, at least for the 3rd gen 2019 Toyota Tacoma. So what's not working right now and what we're not able to figure out is how to get the ABS to read how fast we're going, because as I mentioned before, the ABS is connected to the 4-wheel drive, because the 4-wheel drive will not work unless it detects the vehicle speed or that the ABS actually works with the vehicle. So no ABS, no 4-wheel drive. Other trucks, the 2nd gens, they still have their 4-wheel drive, but the solution is to either tap the rear ABS sensor into, or the rear ABS wire into the front sensor to read the vehicle speed. Then luckily the 4-wheel drive will work. Or we can grab an FJ Cruiser transfer case and have a manual four-wheel drive shifter to just turn that on. Apparently that works with the Toyota Tacoma applications. So it's going to be one or the other. I do not really want to go that route with the FJ Cruiser, but we're going to just try to figure out the ABS. So from UPTOP Overland, I have their Alpha roof rack. This is actually the inner panel here. It's paint matched with cement. It looks really good. I haven't put the outer panel yet because I've been taking the LP4s on and off to see where I want the lighting position and what angle. So I'm still working on that. And I'm gonna have 4 amber rock lights on the outer panel as well. Everything is bolted up right now. There's a weather seal on it. And this thing is tough. I reached out to UPTOP Overland asking if they had a roof rack that I can pretty much send my truck with and something that's not flimsy or is gonna break, and they recommended me this one. So spoke back and forth with them and got this bad boy, and it's gonna have 7 LP4s, which actually follow me, and I'll show you right now. So these are, pick it up, it's kind of heavy, 7 Baja Designs LP4s here. As you can see with the rack here, this is a close-up of what's going on. I originally had them mounted the correct way, which is, you know, how the LP4 is supposed to be mounted, but then I realized I actually have to mount them upside down like this. The reason for that is because when I have the new light harness, the array from Blaze Off-Road, which is going to connect all these, this bracket will not allow me to connect down here. So if you're going with this LP4 setup, you got to set them upside down. That way the brackets are up here. That way you can, yeah, let me get a better view. See, that way you can plug in. But when it's down there, you're not going to be able to plug in because there's no entryway from this bracket here. So you want to come from up here. I'm going to have to figure out a solution to kind of stabilize this, because I've noticed when I did put this entire LP4 rack, unless I'm doing light off-roading, there is going to be a lot of vibrations because each bracket is individual. So I'm going to have to probably figure out a way to connect all these with one more support bracket. That way the lights aren't like wobbling as I'm off-roading. All right, I'm going to take you guys to my paint shop over here. So this is pretty much where I paint everything. I just set it on this ladder and I get to work. So I was originally gonna go with an actual paint shop to get this paint match, but I found a can that's almost spot on with the 1H5 cement paint code for the Toyota Tacomas. Now, granted, this is going on steel, matching to a fiberglass, so it's a little bit of a different finish anyways, but this was only 10 bucks. I didn't have to go through the headache of taking it to a shop and all those things, but you just see how similar it is. And we're gonna go ahead and actually, let me show you how similar it is. All right, so it's probably the wrong side right now that I'm showing you. You just see how close it is for a can of spray paint to the 1H5 on here. So I'm really impressed with how this came out, and only took me a day of painting. For the bed of the truck right now, this is just a little fun project we're working on. I originally had these tie downs here, but I opted for some heavy duty D-rings here, and these are the real deal. And why I went with these is because these were ripping out of my bed with all the whoops I've been hitting. So I wanted something that's stronger, and most importantly, some of the plates actually don't fit underneath, but some of them do, depending on the position of what's going on under the composite bed. But this is a plate that goes underneath, so if you come over here, it's the same exact size as this. So when the bolts go in, you put this on the underside and the nuts go on the outside, but then we're not making direct contact with the composite bed. So all the stress is being distributed evenly and not going to be cracking your bed over time, because that's exactly what happens. It ends up cracking, and sometimes the bolts can actually rip through if they're drilled. So this is a good option. I got this on Amazon. These are just heavy duty tie downs. They're powder coated black as well. So you can get them in red, which I have some for the Defender as well. Anyways, I'm putting a Yeti cooler here in gray to match the Tacoma. It's gonna be a wheeled Yeti cooler because we definitely need that out there. It's hot. We need some cold liquid deaths. We don't drink alcohol around here. So spare tires gonna be going there too. So these two are gonna be for the cooler, and then one extra strap is gonna go to the Y strap and connect the spare tire, and everything is going to be rock solid. So it's not going anywhere, and it's a great option if you're looking to have some accessories in the bed of your Toyota Tacoma or whatever truck you have that has a composite bed. On the floor here, we have the bent drive shaft, which I'm actually going to take back to the shop. I won't say exactly what shop I got it from because they are refunding me. They're aware that they messed up, and I believe it's the C-cap they sold. It was not completely on there, so it spun off from the backside, which I'm very lucky. It didn't break off from the front towards the transmission because the truck could have catapulted. But anyways, we're gonna take this back to them. They're gonna give us a refund. Look at that bad boy. We come underneath the truck over here. We can see that the gas tank skid bent, so that's easy to be replaced. It did hit the actual gas tank, but nothing happened, luckily. And then the exhaust pipes are on the floor here, so it did knock that off as well. But I'm not gonna worry about the exhaust for now. I'm gonna put a new skid on the gas tank before I go out there and hit whoops and stuff, because that's important. But let's just be very grateful that nothing else broke, because that drive shaft was huge. And it spun out at around 50 or 60 miles an hour on I-4, so it could have been a lot worse. So all it did was just nick the gas tank and hit the exhaust and nothing else. So we're really lucky on that. And then we're switching back to an OEM 2-piece drive shaft. And like I mentioned earlier in the video, we have that new cross member for the carrier bearing. And all we did was change the receiver on the end to a 1350 to match the full floater 9-inch rear end. And then we should be good to go. And that rear end is pretty sweet according to Louis. He drove it around, so 529s, full floater with a spool. He said the truck drives fantastic, especially with the Willwoods going all around, which is also why we need to fix that ABS, because right now if you touch the brakes at whatever speed you're going, all the brakes lock up, which can be kind of dangerous. So we want to get that ABS fixed for that reason. But when you're off-road, you know, we're just lightly tapping the brakes. That way it doesn't lock up like crazy, but always nice to have ABS. Just makes the truck more up to date, if anything. But yeah, that's a wrap for today's video. We're gonna come back next week. I'm just gonna be going at the roof rack, drive shaft, all these things, and cleaning up the truck more importantly. And we'll come back to this for the build update part 6 or 7 now. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe and follow me on Instagram, Dune Serpents.